to jump back in time.
Always up for a good time travel adventure.
Perfect. Because today, we're going deep, like way deep, into one of, I think you could argue, one of the most iconic moments of the 20th century.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
The fall of the Berlin Wall.
Ah, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that wall, the one that just screams division, Cold War tension. The whole world kind of felt like it was on the edge of something. Right?
Oh, absolutely, a world on the brink.
And then, almost overnight, poof, it's gone. It crumbles. It almost doesn't even seem real.
It's wild how a symbol of oppression for, like almost 30 years could just disappear almost like that.
Right. But to really, I think, get why it was such a huge deal, we got to kind of rewind a bit first,
Yeah,
right?
set the stage.
So picture this. The world's still recovering from World War II. Germany's right in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
Ends up divided by the Allied powers.
Right, the victors carving things up.
But it's not just lines on a map, right? This was about something way bigger.
Oh yeah, it gets way deeper than that. Think about it, we're talking two completely different ways of thinking of organizing society. You got democracy and capitalism in the West, and then communism in the East, with the Soviet Union kind of calling the shots over there.
Like two totally opposite worlds, basically.
Pretty much, and right smack in the middle of all this is Berlin.
Berlin, so it's in East Germany.
Yeah, trapped inside East Germany, but get this, the city itself is split in two.
Whoa, a city divided within a divided country.
A microcosm of this global ideological face-off, yeah.
So Berlin becomes this, pressure cooker of Cold War tension. You can just imagine the people in the East looking over to the West, seeing a life that, seems a lot better.
Oh yeah, totally. They're facing economic hardship, political systems that are super restrictive, and then they see the West. More opportunity, more freedom right there, but just out of reach.
And that's what sparks the mass exodus, right? People desperate for change, risking it all to get to the West.
Imagine seeing a chance at a better life just on the other side of a wall. I mean, who wouldn't at least think about it? So yeah, East Germans, they start fleeing to the West in huge numbers.
But that creates a problem for East Germany, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for the Soviet Union, too.
Big time. They're losing people, they're losing face. So they come up with a solution, and it's not exactly subtle.
Let me guess. The wall.
Bingo. Practically overnight, 1961, bam. Barbed wire, concrete, Berlin sliced in two.
Can you imagine waking up to that? Like your city's suddenly cut in half?
Talk about a shock. Families split, neighbors become strangers, all because of this concrete monster. It really shows you how real this whole ideological battle was.
Yeah, this isn't just talking heads arguing anymore. This is people's lives, divided by a wall.
And that difference in daily life, East versus West, it only made people want to escape even more. Think about it. West Berlin, you've got access to all the Western stuff, the culture, the freedom to, just live your life. Meanwhile, in East Berlin, it's restrictions, surveillance, like living under a microscope.
It's almost like two different planets, right there in the same city.
Absolutely. And for those trapped on the wrong side of the wall, life was tough. Every move watched, every word potentially dangerous.
It must have felt so suffocating, like living in a cage with a wall is a constant reminder. Did that break people's spirit, though?
Surprisingly, no. Even with all that pressure, the desire for freedom never died. People were incredibly resourceful.
Resourceful? How so?
People dug tunnels, hid in cars, even tried to fly over in homemade contraptions. They risked everything for a shot at a better life.
It's almost hard to believe the lengths they went to, the sheer bravery. But I guess it shows just how desperate they were for a change.
It's a powerful testament to the human spirit, right? Even facing danger and incredible odds, they never gave up hope. Tragically, not everyone made it. Some were caught, some met with even worse fates.
It just breaks your heart, knowing what they went through.
It makes you realize the Berlin Wall wasn't just some political symbol. It represented broken dreams, families torn apart. It was a monument to a longing for something better, a life free from oppression. It was intensely personal for so many people.
So we've got this wall, right? This giant symbol of everything the Cold War stood for, and people are risking everything they have just for a chance at freedom. But things are about to change.
Big time.
Like a shift is coming, sweeping through Eastern Europe, and a lot of it, you could argue, goes back to this one guy.
Oh yeah, him.
Mikhail Gorbachev. He steps onto the world stage in the mid-'80s as the leader of the Soviet Union, and well, he's not afraid to shake things up, is he?
Not at all. Gorbachev, he was a different kind of Soviet leader. He understood the system was stuck, needed a major overhaul.
A shakeup behind the Iron Curtain.
Basically, He introduces these reforms, glasnost and perestroika. Huge deal. It's about bringing transparency, openness to a system that had been closed off for decades.
So he's like, let's open the windows, let some fresh air in.
Exactly. More freedom of expression, loosening the grip of control, But it's not just inside the Soviet Union. This has huge ripple effects throughout Eastern Europe.
People start seeing what's happening in the USSR and think, hey, maybe we can change things here too.
Exactly. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, even East Germany. People start demanding more freedom, more say in their own lives, an end to oppressive communist rule. It's this incredible wave of energy, a feeling that things are finally starting to shift.
And the East German government, what are they thinking at this point? They must be freaking out.
They're clinging to power, but the tide is turning against them, and they can't hold it back.
Okay, so we've got all this pressure building, but how does that actually lead to the wall coming down? It just seems so improbable, so sudden.
The actual fall of the wall, that's almost an accident. A series of events, missteps, and a whole lot of people ready to seize the moment. It all starts on November 9th, 1989, with Günter Schabowski. He's an East German official giving a live press conference.
Okay, so this press conference, this is where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. Schabowski is supposed to announce these new, slightly relaxed travel regulations, but he kind of messes it up. He fumbles his words, makes it sound like the wall is open right then and there.
Wait, seriously, so he just, accidentally tells the world the wall's open?
Pretty much. And people are watching this live on TV. The news spreads like wildfire.
I bet. People are probably running through the street shouting, the wall's open, the wall's open.
It was pure chaos. Excitement, disbelief, confusion, people rushing towards the wall, not quite believing it, but they have to see for themselves.
Oh man, the energy, the anticipation. What's it like at the checkpoints?
Huge crowds are gathering, demanding to cross.
And the guards, the border guards, they weren't expecting this, right? What do?
They're caught completely off guard, getting conflicting orders, facing this massive, determined crowd. Talk about pressure. They're basically at the center of history in that moment.
It must have felt like the whole world was watching them. What did they do?
They did something incredible. They opened the gates.
Wow. It gives me chills just thinking about it. The wall, this symbol of oppression for so long, suddenly becoming a gateway to freedom.
It was a night of pure joy. Families reuniting after decades, people celebrating on top of the wall, chipping away at it with hammers and chisels, taking pieces home.
It's like this symbol of division turned into this canvas for unity overnight.
The atmosphere was electric. People were dancing, crying, hugging strangers. It was like the whole city was exhaling after holding its breath for almost 30 years. It was a party, but it was so much more than that. It was a release.
It's hard to grasp, the sheer scale of what happened in Berlin. It wasn't just a party, it was this outpouring of, relief, joy.
It was cathartic, like this huge weight had been lifted.
Decades of frustration, of longing, just gone.
All that tension just released.
And it wasn't just in Berlin, right? This had a ripple effect, like a shockwave that went out across the world.
Oh, absolutely. For decades, it was like the world was holding its breath. Two superpowers locked in this standoff, and then the wall comes down.
Like someone cracked a window in a stuffy room.
Exactly. The whole world felt it. And it's contagious.
Contagious? How?
The fall of the Berlin Wall, it's like a starting pistol.
For what?
For change. All across Eastern Europe, communist regimes start crumbling. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, one after another.
It's like dominoes falling.
Exactly. These peaceful revolutions, people inspired by what happened in Berlin, realizing, hey, if they can do it, we can too.
It's amazing how one event can spark so much change.
Right.
Regimes that have been in power for, 40 years just collapse.
It shows the power of hope, people seeing that change is possible, and it has a huge impact on the Soviet Union.
The USSR, Gorbachev's reforms, they can't hold back the tide.
The Soviet Empire, it basically falls apart in 1991. The Cold War, which had defined the world for almost half a century, is over.
The world order completely reshuffled. New countries pop up, old alliances crumble, and Germany, divided for so long, starts to come back together.
Reunification. It was a messy process, complicated, a lot of challenges, but it happened.
The Berlin Wall, from symbol of division to catalyst for unity. Pretty incredible.
A pivotal moment in history. It showed the power of peaceful protest, how fragile these oppressive systems really are.
It makes you think, though, right? The concrete wall is gone, but are there other walls out there? Not physical ones, maybe, but just as divisive.
Walls of prejudice, intolerance, inequality. Invisible, but just as real.
We tear down one wall only to build new ones.
It takes a different kind of courage to face these invisible walls.
What do you mean?
It takes empathy, understanding, a willingness to listen. We have to recognize our shared humanity, build bridges instead of walls.
So thinking about the Berlin Wall today, it's not just about remembering the past, right?
It's about learning from it. It's a reminder that change is possible even when things seem impossible, and it's a call to action.
The call to action.
What walls do you see around you? What can you do to help tear them down? Even small actions can make a difference.
That's a powerful message. The legacy of the Berlin Wall, a reminder that we all have a role to play in building a better world. To our listeners out there, keep that in mind. Think about those walls and what you can do to break them down. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep pushing for a world where walls of all kinds no longer divide us.